Okay, this is now the 5-minute tarot for the 21st of July 2017. And today I want to tell you two things. And this is going to be relevant if you've been, or you're about to, or you're trying the substitution or the correlation of major trumps with the letters of the alphabet. And if you've been exploring that or playing with that, in the beginning, it's really exciting because you discover things and connections, and it's really quite interesting. But I've found over the years with different people that your initial enthusiasm can begin to turn into disappointment because you think to yourself, okay, I've only got 22 cards, and I keep using them, and I've got a limited number of meanings, and I'm going to keep saying the same thing over and over again, and that's not that interesting. So I want, and you can get confused as well. So for instance, you get like, if you take the word real, R-E-A-L, and then so you want to understand what real means, then you think, okay, what's reality? So you maybe take the R-E-A-L and repeat it, and then stick an I-T-Y at the end. And if you do it in a kind of mechanical way like that, it loses its impact and it loses its interest. And you can get confused as well and think that you're doing something wrong. And, so in order that you don't just repeat stuff, I wanted to tell you two things. And the first is to do with painting. And so my grandson he's 4 now, but we do, whenever I visit him, we do painting. So I put a piece of paper on a counter and I ask Eric to pick the colours and what shape, and I pour the paint onto the paper, and then he manipulates it with different sized brushes or a roller or a palette knife or a sponge. If you look at this picture, we've got, he normally chooses like blue and red, green and red and yellow. So you look at this one and it's a particular kind of painting. This one though is the same colours, but it was done using, instead of a brush, he used a toy train, and with wheels, and he rolled the engine back and forth across the paint. So two very different paintings with different atmospheres and different techniques and so on, but it's the same basic colours. And the reason I'm giving you this as an example is you've got 22 major trumps, so you can take 2 or 3 major trumps and produce very different results, even though you're using the same element, so to speak. Right, so 3 colours, red, green and yellow, produce 2 very different types of paintings. And so if you're using major trumps and letters, don't think that you're going to keep repeating things or that you have to duplicate what you've already done. So as an example, you've got the word man, M-A-N. Let's say we want to understand what man is. So M-A-N is death, the magician and the temperance card. So man, or maybe mankind, is about, people are good at killing, or they may be aware of the fact that life is short and then you die. So there's death and then the magician. So, and temperance can be the 2 cups. So maybe what man is about is, you're going to die, or there's going to be death, but you also want to create. And the cups in the temperance card can show you need to find a balance between them, or get a flow going between the fact that things are finite from the death card, but we can also do things while we're here from the magician card. Right, so that's M-A-N. But let's say you want to know, okay, what it happens when you've got the word men, M-E-N. So we've still got the M and the N, but the vowel in the middle goes from an A to an E. So you switch the magician to the Hierophant. So when you've got an individual person, an individual man, you've got death, the magician and temperance. But when it's men, when it's groups of people, you've got death, the Hierophant, and the Temperance card. Somebody years ago wrote a book about something and the madness of crowds. So when you get a bunch of people together, there's like a group mentality takes over. So you get M for death, and then you get E for the Hierophant. And going back to what Simone said, the Hierophant's institutions where you've got rules. So men, groups of men, they like death. They like to join armies and go and kill people. They also like a leader. They like somebody to tell them what to do. And if somebody tells them what to do, they'll go and do it. Because we've got an E, which can be groupthink. You know, like you're a member of the group, so you have to obey and do stupid things that you wouldn't do if it was just you. But you do them because there's a group mentality. And then the N card as well. Right, so we're using the same, or two of the same three cards, but we're getting a different story, a different atmosphere, a different meaning, in the same way that Eric would choose green, red, and yellow, but he would do very different things with them. So we've got man and men. But then I was thinking to myself, there's a book called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus by some psychologist. John Gray, I think his name is. So in order to, if you read the book, you have to sort of understand a bit of psychology with it. But because we know letters and the major trumps of the tarot, we don't need to read the book to understand the difference between men and women. Because men are M-E-N, death, the Hierophant and the Temperance card. But women are W-O. That's the difference between men and women, is W and O, the Lovers and the Tower. So women, men start with death and maybe inevitability. We've got a sense that things are going to happen the way they're going to happen. Whereas women start with the Lovers. Maybe women start with an appreciation of partnership. I mean, if you think of it, that women give birth to babies, so you've got the mother-child bond that you don't have with the father-child. It's a different relationship. But maybe what makes women different is that they begin with the Lovers. They appreciate and understand love and the value of love, that they understand partnerships, the importance of partnerships. And then we've got the Tower. So maybe women are subject to disappointment in a way that men aren't. That women can recognize that we need other people, but we don't always get what we want, or we don't always find what we're looking for. Then they come to M-E-N. So they go through the M-E-N part, death, the Hierophant and the Temperance card. But by the time they get to the M, they've already experienced the W and the O. So I was thinking about one way of describing this, and let's say you've got two people and one of them knows how to drive a car and the other one doesn't and has never really even seen a car. If you show these two people a bus, the person who doesn't know how to drive and doesn't know about transportation is going to look at the bus and not know what I do with this, what is this? Whereas the person who can already drive, they're going to look at a bus and understand the same bus differently because they understand what's going on. You've got a driver and you've got an engine and gears and all the rest of it. So in the same way, men, M-E-N, are men, but women, by the time they get to the M part, they already know something. So they see the M, the death card, very differently from men. Men start with the death card. Women get to the death card through the Lovers and the Tower. So when they are given the experience of M, they look at it through very different eyes. Okay, so that's part of what's going on when we play with words and we use major trumps to substitute letters. So the other thing is, there's a fellow called Kent Hewitt who has a number of videos, a whole series of videos on YouTube about how to play the piano. And I like watching his videos. It'd be nice to play the piano. I want to play it. I don't want to have to practice. But that's another story, however. So Kent, I'm going to show you two clips from one of his videos. And so the first one, it's short. So he's got the left hand playing 4 chords, one after the other, and he's got, because it's in C, he's using just the white notes. So you're going to listen to a little bit of Kent playing the piano, and then I'm going to come back and tell you about the second part. So here's Kent.
Like that. Right? Like that. That kind of thing. Okay, so when you...
Okay, so the next bit is Kent talking. He's going to play the same notes or the same scale, but at different speed and in a different order. So, and he's also going to make a couple of points about what you're actually doing when you're playing like this, that you're exploring and you're experimenting. So here is a second little short clip of Kent.
Like this. Like that. This is sort of like composing, but you're doing it in the spur of the moment. You're doing it like right in the now. It's not, you're not writing it down or thinking it out. You're just letting it come out. This is spontaneous improvisation. So eventually it gets into something like this. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next step.
So that's a little bit from Kent, and you saw in the second clip he was playing the same notes but differently and at a different speed. And so you've got, let's say we think about the Sun card. The Sun card in a reading, or the Sun card on its own, can be slow and steady and powerful, or it can be quick and light, and you quickly move over it and move beyond it. So when you look at the Sun card, it's not always the same. It's not always played the same way. It could also be played with other cards, another combination of cards. So you've got the Sun and the Tower together is telling you one thing, whereas the Sun and the Magician is telling you something very different. In the same way that Kent can play notes quickly or slowly, and he can make a big jump from one note to the next, and so back and forth. So he's got a limited number of notes, and we've got a limited number of cards, but the possibilities are kind of infinite and endless, and the order in which you play them can be infinite and endless. Well, it's not infinite, but there's a big variety. So it's not so much that when you look at, let's say, MEN as Death, the Hierophant, and the Temperance card, it's not so much the idea that one story is correct and other stories that you might tell from those same cards are incorrect. It's more, or that one variation or one list of meanings is right and the other's wrong, or some is good and some is bad. It's more like you play and you practice and you examine and you think about it and you see what comes to you, because as Kent says, eventually you get to this. So with reading cards, eventually you get to a different point of understanding where, because of the exercises that you do, and you get to a dead end and you get confused and you get fed up and you get to thinking that you're just making it up and it doesn't mean anything, it has no value. When you get beyond that point, as Kent says, eventually you get to this point where the quality of the playing changes, and it's because also when it comes to reading cards, it's the same cards, the Sun, the Magician, the Death card, but you're different because of the exercises that you've done, so you can do more. And it's a bit like you get to the point where, and I can't remember who it was who left a comment, but I said, It was in response to an earlier video, and whoever it was liked a bit about temporarily forgetting what you know, and that's kind of what you get to the point where you turn major trumps, and you temporarily forget what you're supposed to think or what the meaning is supposed to be, and you just read what's there. You just read the card. So what you're doing is you're letting the understanding come to you, in the same way that Kent talks about playing the notes kind of intuitively or automatically. Okay, that was it. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, as I say. And tomorrow's about digging a well, I think. Okay, so see you then. Bye-bye.